What is up, denizens of the interwebs? It's RZ Chats here, coming at you with another video. This time, we're talking about how the CEO of Hasbro is once again doubling down on the use of generative AI in his products and D&D. So like, subscribe, and hop in, losers. D&D's once again committing IP suicide. Alright, the bulk of all this information is coming from this article from Bounding Into the Comics. Hasbro CEO confirms generative AI to play a heavy role in the future of Dungeons & Dragons, says technology's popularity is a clear signal that we need to be embracing it. And this article is written by Spencer Bakuli from a few days ago, September 14th. In this article, it reports on comments made by CEO Chris Cox, who commented that embracing generative AI is going to play a pivotal role in the future development of Dungeons & Dragons. He continues on here that inside of development, we've already been using AI, which is something that we're not new to. The idea that Hasbro's been using AI in their products has been blatantly obvious, with multiple instances of them having problems in especially Magic the Gathering, but also Dungeons & Dragons as a brand being caught several times using AI. He then continues on down here where he comments that we will deploy it significantly and liberally, internally as both a knowledge worker aid and as a developmental aid, which really just goes a lot to say how utterly lazy Hasbro is. Continues on down here, I play with probably 30 to 40 people regularly, he reflected. There's not a single person who doesn't use AI somehow for either campaign development, character development, or story ideas. Well, you know what? That might say more about the people you're surrounding yourself with, Chris Cox, than the reality. Because of the people I know, very few of them use generative AI for their campaigns. The closest thing they use generative AI for is character design, because it's really hard to draw if you don't know how to. Try drawing a dark elf wearing multiple layers of gems and flowing robes. It's not easy if you're not a talented artist already. So no, most people aren't using AI to create their stories or characters, and when they are, the AI is barely doing the lifting. The whole point of the AI is like a name generator. If you're going to run it, you use it very lightly, at the very early age of conception forming ideas, instead of doing it later on, and you're certainly not going to be using it liberally for story ideas. It's going to give you the seeds that you're then going to plant into a tree of your own making. The AI is nothing more than a television inspiration, or some kind of inspiration for what you're doing. This whole idea of using it liberally and frequently is the complete and utter wrong direction to take it, because you're going to be killing creativity at every point and turn that you can. The funniest part about Cox's embrace of AI is that down here, the article specifically notes that Cox's public embrace of generative AI comes after Hasbro subsidiary Wizards of the Coast found itself embroiled in controversy after it updated its policies to ban the use of technology in its products, only to turn around and use it to create Magic the Gathering ad. Magic the Gathering has been caught using AI several times. I think there were 3 or 4 different instances of cards being caught using AI, and then after they said that they would no longer use AI, they published this ad. And the funniest part about that card that used AI is it specifically stole art from another card artist and didn't give them any credit, and the person who was making the card art didn't even give the guy credit or change it in any sizable manner that wasn't easily noticeable. So, while it is in fact true that most people do tend to use generative AI when it comes to making their campaigns, Hasbro isn't most people. Hasbro isn't indicative of the market and the people and the players. They should be the ones who decide to use the AI, not Hasbro, because Hasbro has too many people on payroll whose sole job is to make these stories and make them well enough that you don't need to use AI. And that whole point of payroll is actually the most important thing about this discussion. Is up here in the article, it specifically states that the point of the AI is how it could be used to bring down Hasbro's production costs. The saddest part is, Hasbro doesn't have too much of production costs because they don't produce anything of their own anymore. They've already offshored all of their toys, offshored all of their TV shows and movies, and offshored any project that isn't Dungeons & Dragons. And when it comes to Dungeons & Dragons, they've ditched the physical books, so they're no longer printing anything. They've ditched so much of the actual physical parts that people actually want to pay money for, that they're not producing, but they're also costing them buyers. And this really just goes into a significantly larger issue that's going to be absolutely hilarious for me at least to see. With the influx of AI and the fact that the majority of the population opposes the use of AI for commercial use is going to just completely backfire in Hasbro's face. Chris Cox doesn't seem to understand that most people don't want to pay for AI because the AI stuff is the same thing that they're getting, and they're getting it for free. Well, I personally don't have an issue with personal or even small companies using AI. I have a massive issue with a market cap in the billions using AI when they can afford people whose job it is should be to be better than AI, whose jobs it is to tell these stories, to make the modules, and to do it all with all of the human integrity that is so key to the success and long-lasting success of Dungeons & Dragons. With this whole AI issue, I really hope it just causes one thing. I'm not hoping that Wizards of the Coast corrects course. What I'm hoping for is that people realize that Wizards of the Coast is really just a horrible company, like how so many people have realized before, that they decide to ditch Dungeons & Dragons, especially D&D 5, because personally, D&D 5 is the worst role-playing system that I have ever had the misfortune of playing. The action economy in 5th edition is utterly trash, so hopefully people will take the whole issue of the AI and use it as the final straw on the camel's back to push them to Pathfinder, the infinitely superior system. Now, I haven't played Pathfinder 2, but I hear it's even better than Pathfinder 1, and I do plan to play it eventually. But with all of this stuff with D&D and Wizards of the Coast, I have so many Magic cards. I love playing Magic, but you know what? Buying Magic cards is expensive, and I don't like the direction of some of the sets that they've been releasing recently, as well as the fact that they've been lying about them. For instance, there was a post by Screen Rant that claimed that there was a hidden Mark of the Outsider from Dishonored hidden inside of one of the Magic cards. I scoured that thing. There was no sign of the Mark of the Outsider. So with all this stuff about Wizards of the Coast just utterly going down the dumpster, I'm not going to complain too much. I revel in the fact that I get to save a couple $100 a year on Magic cards that I would be spending. I can revel in the fact that the company that doesn't want me, the company that attacks its own founder, Gary Gygax, and is so utterly disingenuous and is only interested in making their orcs Mexican stereotypes, making their elves Asian stereotypes, and just making everything as racially real as possible instead of leaning into the fantasy that most people want. You know, also going as far as making their dungeons advised to be accessible to wheelchair people, it is completely antithetical to the goals, ideals, and the desires of the actual Dungeons & Dragons player base. It is not something that encourages creativity, it is something that staunches it, and that is perfectly epitomized by the fact that they are now embracing AI, because AI doesn't improve creativity, it kills creativity. I would know. I have a friend who's making his own Dungeons & Dragons world. We've been talking about it for a while. He's asked me for many ideas, and I've given him some, such as an idea like an iron dragon, aka a metallic dragon who breathes steam. You know how like the gold, bronze, silver dragons, they all breathe different elements. That was an idea I gave him. Or an immortal lich cowboy who's looking for a phylactery so that he can finally die. Those are some ideas I gave him, and he didn't use any of them, and instead chose to use the AI stuff. And when I read the AI stuff, it was all super generic. He asked me to come up with some really bizarre ideas, and the stuff I gave him compared to the stuff the AI generated were completely different because the AI lacks any kind of real creativity. It is going to put it into an algorithm, and an algorithm will weed out any forms of personality into it. And the personality is what makes Dungeons & Dragons such a great system. When you're allowed to utilize people's intelligence, people's imagination, and people's life experiences, you get something great. But when you're forced to use it, or when you encourage using something that is inherently not human, all you're doing is you're dragging down the art, and you're dragging down the medium. And I really hope that soon enough we see Hasbro turn course, or finally just lose all their IPs so we can start getting good stuff again. I want good Transformers, I want good G.I. Joe, and I want good D&D. But that's pretty much all I've got for this video. And aside from just making fun of the absolute crap show that Hasbro is finding themselves in, but you let me know, does the fact that Hasbro is looking to fully embrace AI into every aspect of their company, does that turn you off to things like Dungeons & Dragons and their other products, or does it make you excited that they're actually going to be putting out stuff that leans a little bit more to the universal storytelling, since AI can't really do anything other than universal stories, since that's all they have to sample from? But that's all I've got for today, so thanks for coming along with me, and you guys have a wonderful day.